Hey there, James here, and you're listening to the Own the Moment podcast, the show where we explore the complex and always evolving landscape of marketing, advertising, and branding, and try to get to the bottom of what it means to be a truly memorable brand. The Own the Moment podcast is brought to you by Como Technologies, a self-service, complete customer engagement platform that helps you cut through the noise to truly connect with your customers and retain and grow those connections over time. With Como, you can build and deploy new campaigns, activations, promotions, and programs in days, not months, and our software is used by some of the world's biggest consumer brands, from Heineken to Budget, Goodman Fielder, Foxtel, JLL, Williams Racing, and McDonald's. Learn more at como.tech. Hi everyone, James here, and you're listening to a special live edition of the Own the Moment podcast, recorded live from within 7 House at Sydney's South by Southwest Festival in late October of this year. Let's get straight into it.
Okay, everyone's just trickling in anymore. Hello everyone, welcome to a live edition of the Own the Moment podcast. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome Patrick Millington Buck, the Senior Marketing Manager of Commercial Partnerships of Virgin Australia. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you very much.
But first, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I'll also start by saying that I'm a ring-in today, so if you've seen the Own the Moment podcast, you'll know that the Como Head of Product and Marketing, James Pember, normally would be sitting up here, but he's lost his voice. So I've been pulled in last minute, so do excuse me if I've got my head down looking at some of these questions a little bit more than James would. But we've known each other for a while, Patrick. We've worked together at when you're at OzHarvest, the work that Como did with Budget through the partnerships and sponsorships there. So we'll have a bit of fun today and a bit of banter and run through it all.
Yeah, great.
Sound good? Okay, so today we're going to talk about partnerships and how brands can get the most out of them. Virgin has, of course, a number of high-profile partnerships, including AFL, AFLW, Starlight Children's Charity, What Ability, and OzHarvest. But before we jump into all of those, I just got two questions about your background, just so we can get to know you a little bit more. So firstly, tell me about how you got into marketing and how you've ended up where you are today.
Yeah, well, thank you, Joel. Well, me, I'm basically a classic bloke who started off loving sport, playing it, watching it, attending it. So growing up, for me, getting involved in anything to do with marketing around sport and the business of sport and partnerships was something that I always thought, wow, what an awesome job that would be to be involved in it. And I was fortunate enough to get some work experience and some internships over in the UK. And obviously, as you can tell, I'm a Pommy, so I came out to Australia about 10 years ago and continued that journey in partnerships and sport, and then sport evolved into more entertainment and other ways in which partnerships can connect.
We won't hold that against you, mate. The
Thank you very
Pommy thing,
much.
all right? So secondly, I know you've recently completed Mark Ritson's mini MBA. How was it, and what were the top learnings from that?
I loved it, and actually it'd be good to know if there's anyone else in the audience who's done the Ritson mini MBA. There's a couple of you.
Hands up.
Yeah, it's for me, moving from the agency space into a brand role, I felt that to understand the marketing fundamentals were really important, and I think courses like the Ritson Mini MBA or other marketing courses just really nail those fundamentals of marketing. And so when you look at, well, for me personally, when I was able to take that into the role at Virgin, it was really anchoring our activity, and especially in the partnership space, back to those marketing fundamentals. Mm-hmm.
And you recently said on LinkedIn, a meaningful partnership needs to be culturally relevant, action-led, and measurable. Let's talk through those one by one. So what does it mean to say that a partnership needs to be culturally relevant?
I think it's about understanding your target customers and what they're caring about. So to be culturally relevant is obviously different to different consumers that you're trying to target. So for some people, it's relevancy in social issues. For others, it's passion points, might be sport, might be entertainment, might be comedy, might be music. So when I talk about culturally relevant, it's not necessarily just about the societal issues that are out there. It's about understanding the audience and what is it that they're caring about at that moment in time, and how your brand can fit within that.
Okay. And obviously there's some really reactive opportunities that a brand could jump into around things like Black Lives Matter and COVID and those types of things. How would you sort of approach those types of, I guess you wouldn't call them a trend, but global moments? How should a brand sort of attach themselves to those moments in time?
I think it's about being relevant and authentic, and you'll probably hear that a lot amongst a number of panels around here. Yes, there's opportunities to jump on a social cause, but it's so important for a brand to have a role if they do that. And an example like an airline is that if there's a relevant opportunity for an airline to support a cause or to help a societal issue or to get involved in an action-led campaign, then it makes sense. But if there's no strategic or obvious way that they can help, then I think just signal virtualing and supporting a trend or a cause just for the sake of it, consumers will just see through that.
See through it.
Yeah,
Totally. Okay, so let's jump back onto the Ritson stuff. So what do you mean by action-led, and can you share an example of that?
Yeah, I think this actually came out of a Havas Meaningful Brand study, which showed that for brands to be relevant and for people to care about brands, they need to be culturally relevant and action-led. And I think we've spoken about the cultural relevant point, and it needs to be relevant to your brand, but then taking action. So brands that we see that are doing that, and within their partnerships, I think are really cutting through the noise. So I think there's some good examples out there, like the NRMA insurance campaign, where it's quite well known. They did the Every Home is Worth Protecting, where they used a koala, and they had a big long multi-year campaign using the koala as Every Home is Worth Protecting, including koala homes, which obviously related back to human homes. So yes, great emotive brand advertising campaign, really sort of tugged on the heartstrings. But then what was the action behind that? Which ultimately they did a number of different things, but it was one or two which stood out, which showed the action led behind that piece. So they did, for every policy that they sold of a home insurance, they planted a tree in koala affected areas. And then they did a partnership with Conservation Volunteers Australia, where they set themselves a target of planting 100,000 trees in koala affected areas over the course of 2 years, and then measured and tracked that. So it was about having the emotional brand building campaign, which was very effective, but then also the substance behind it by doing policies for tree donations, partnering with organisations that were supporting it. So there's actually substance behind what they're talking about.
Yeah, and you briefly touched on measuring it as well, which we'll touch on later as well, because it's an interesting one when you're talking about causes, etc., and attaching your brand to a cause. It has to, or doesn't have to be, but a lot of ways it still can be commercially led in a way, and you can still measure that, and we'll jump into that. But there's a couple of other examples here which I'll actually just throw in a quick question here. You knew I was going to do this. So the Pampers partnership with UNICEF, Uber and Red Cross, and then the Who Gives a Crap local example with building toilets in the developing world. Of those, which one's your favourite? Which one rung home the most for you?
Well, I think it's about clearly brands that are aligning themselves and doing cause-related marketing. It's obviously the right thing to do, as long as it's authentic and action-led, as I've spoken about. But yeah, it needs to be measurable, and it needs to link back to what the strategic objectives of the brand are. But the reality is that brands that are doing ESG-related activity, the data shows that consumers are more connected with brands that are doing that, and the sales data proves that as well. So it's a double-edged sword, because you can't be doing things for the sake of it, but when you do them and you do them right, then you do see the return on investment in terms of from a brand building, a brand equity point of view, because it helps build that affinity.
And if you go into it with the right frame of mind, putting the charity or the issue first, you're probably going to get a better result anyway. If you go in with a commercially led mind, you're probably doing it for the wrong reason.
Exactly. So it comes back to that authenticity point around the alignment of values.
Yep. So on to measuring. So obviously, I think everyone in this room would agree that measuring campaigns is 110% required. Let's talk about the Happiness Island campaign, which you did at Hamilton Island with the Starlight Foundation. How did you measure the impact of that?
Yeah, so just to give a bit of a rundown on what Happiness Island was. So Virgin Australia are the official airline provider, supporter, partner of Starlight and have been for over 10 years. So we fly sick kids around Australia when they want to go on their travel wishes. So we help facilitate, as I was talking about earlier, that action-led. So we're a partner of Starlight, but we actually have a role to play in that partnership. That is flying the kids to their wishes. So it might be go to Disney World or swim with dolphins or whatever it may be. So Happiness Island was an activation we ran a few months ago where we worked in conjunction with Hamilton Island Tourism Board, and we renamed Hamilton Island Happiness Island for the weekend. And we flew a plane load of kids to the island and created the most amazing, happy experience at every touch point during that journey. So in the lounge, we had fun and games, and on board we had the captains in fancy dress. We had games, we had quizzes, we had trivia. Then when we got onto the island, we had the local fire truck spraying water as the plane landed. We had the local kids with signs welcoming the other kids. And then we had all of these amazing experiences on the island. So for us, that was about doing the right thing, of course. But there was obviously the objective of raising awareness of our partnership to build that brand health and brand equity piece, and being able to measure that from a community brand health metric. And it helped that it was a good PR idea. We had Channel 9 on board. So they captured.
You can't mention that name in here, mate.
Sorry. Yes.
Mel.
We had a TV network. I think we did actually. Next year. But no, I mean, obviously to get the coverage of a TV network on board, was a fantastic experience. It's actually, for me, it was a career highlight because it was the intersection of a partnership amplified, but what an amazing experience. And the families on board who lived through some of the awful traumatic things that you go through raising a kid with cancer and things. It was just incredible to be a part of.
And Virgin, just reading here, has helped facilitate over 3,000 travel wishes since 2010. So that's worth a round of applause, everyone, surely. It's awesome. And it must be amazing to be part of that, as you say.
Yeah, it's great. And I think what gave me so much satisfaction is we're obviously a big airline, a big company. There's 7,000 staff. And we're a small marketing team. But when you get to do things like that, you get the staff involved. So you had the check-in staff, the lounge reception staff, the cabin crew, the pilots, the baggage handlers. They all loved it. They all got really involved and they wanted to do their bit for the kids. So I think with Starlight in particular, it's so satisfying how well it's received by so many staff at Virgin. And we've been a partner for over 10 years, but that's for me as well. It's such a great part of it, how much our staff love it.
So that's another benefit. It's employee culture, enhancing stickiness with the team, that type of stuff.
That's
as well.
it.
So
That's
it just keeps
yeah.
on flowing through. Fantastic. Okay. So you wrote somewhere recently that partnerships should create skin in the game for rights holders for maximum return. Talk a little bit about that and how you focus on generating clear ROI from brand partnerships.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. We've obviously talking about our community partnerships, and we also have a number of other community partnerships as well. Whatability, OzHarvest. So it's not just limited to Starlight. But the commercial partnerships piece is an interesting one because that we use those for different objectives. So we're the official airline of the AFL. And have been for many years, and that's probably more commercially anchored, and there's more of a direct commercial return with the partnership with the AFL. Reason being is that the exclusivity that Virgin have with the AFL and the partnership mean that all 18 clubs fly Virgin when they book their team travel. So we get the commercial return of that partnership by being the exclusive airline that all 18 clubs, and it runs into the millions of revenue that we get back from that. So there's the commercial anchored piece to that partnership.
Yep. So we talk about a win-win for the fan as well, win for the club. So this is, I've got Channel 9's mentioned there again, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. They are. Channel 7 are the AFL
Yes,
partner, but we work with a number of different networks, and we have done activity with 7 as well. I will call that out.
And plan on it in the future. So you're a fan of the creative is the variable quote from Gary Vee. How do you approach levelling up partnerships to go beyond simple sponsorships, or to actually create interesting and memorable experiences?
Yeah, I think just taking a step back, and it's something that I learned on the mini MBA course for those that did it and have also studied marketing. It's got the idea of the long and the short, and the long being the brand building, emotive, long-term awareness that you can drive, and then the short being short-term revenue kind of driver activations. So learning about and going really deep and analysing the work of Les Field and Bennett around the long and short in that course was like, how can I bring that into Virgin from a partnerships point of view? So how can I set up a partnership so there's the long and the short? So with the AFL, it was a really interesting one because we could go after the long by driving home the partnership awareness piece, and looking at our assets and how we can get high exposure, high brand awareness of the IP association to fans. So that would be things like broadcast exposure assets, LED, pitch signage, activations, which we'll talk about, but really kind of going after the association so you can build that brand affinity, because we know that AFL is such a passionate sport in Australia and connects with so many Australian fans. So drawing that association, we knew that we could draw then the passion connection for Virgin. But then the short was the interesting part, because you want to go after those revenue driving activities. So we looked at how we can, not only from a commercial point of view of the teams flying on Virgin, but how could we target fans flying Virgin, so AFL fans. So we've set up, and we're currently going through the process now of connecting and setting up affiliate models with as many AFL clubs as we can. So we can actually, the clubs get a kickback of all flight revenue sold to their fan base. Okay. So when you talk about a win-win, it's what's the benefit to Virgin? Obviously, it's AFL fans flying VA. For the club, there's now a 4% commission basis on any flights that they sell. But the crucial part in all of that is, well, what's the benefit to the fan? What does a fan get out of buying their flight through the club? So we looked at setting up, we are setting up the ultimate AFL fan prize pool, whereas essentially money can't buy experiences at the 2024 grand final. We've got signed merchandise, we've got business class flights anywhere in Australia, plus anyone that enters wins a share of 1 million velocity points. So the way that works is, if you book your flight through your AFL club, say you're a Collingwood Swans fan, Eagles for you, yeah? All right, so you're an Eagles fan.
Yes.
Sorry, mate.
Yes. At least I'm not a Dockers fan.
Okay. So you would you might get an ad served to you from West Coast Eagles saying, are you considering flying over to Perth to watch the Eagles play, catch up with your mum and dad, whatever? Yep. If you book it through this Virgin link, then you can go into the draw to win all of these prizes. So it's as simple as put your boarding pass number into this competition page, and you go in the draw to win all of these incredible prizes.
And the clubs are pushing those now far and wide for you as well, and they're incentivised to do that with the kickback.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's a win for the fan because they get into the draw to win all of these amazing prizes. Yep. It's a win for the club because they get a 4% commission on all flights sold, and it's a win for us because they fly Virgin.
Correct. Win, win, win. There you go. Okay. Creative is the variable quote from Gary Vee. So how do you approach levelling up partnerships to go beyond simple sponsorships to actually create interesting and memorable experiences? You sort of touched on it there a little bit. So it's all about uplifting experience and adding joy into the brand. So travel on the same plane as my favourite footy team, experienced by few, seen by many. You're known to talk about that a bit. And that's where the Channel 9 thing comes in. But talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think it's about the opportunity to bring to life what your brand positioning is. And our objective at Virgin Australia is to be Australia's most loved airline. And our purpose is by creating uplifting experiences for all. So we're very clear on what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve. So from a partnerships activations point of view, it's about creating those uplifting experiences. And then, so when I joined, that was sort of what I was thinking about, uplifting experiences through our partnerships. And then we had our Bring On Wonderful campaign, which dropped, which you might have seen, TV ads, out of home. And Bring On Wonderful is basically the articulation of creating uplifting experiences. It's about taking moments of flying which are mundane, boring. We came out of COVID where everyone hated flying. It was masks on. The airport experience was awful. And we wanted to bring the joy back to flying. And so the brand positioning, the master brand positioning was Bring On Wonderful. So for partnerships, it was almost like a gift to me, because it was, okay, well, that's the wonderful brand positioning. Your job, Patrick, bring that to life.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, well, what do we need to do from AFL experiences? You know, what do they want? How can we create that joy, that wonder, those moments through the AFL?
And what was the number one thing you did when you sort of started working with the AFL?
Yeah, it was again, it was so interesting because I spoke to a lot of AFL fans, and being a Pom, I'll be honest, I wasn't massively into it. But being a sports fan, I was. So it was kind of, I quickly learnt about the game, and I spoke to a couple of people, and then I found out that all the players travel on the same flights as fans. So when Collingwood plays away or Brisbane play away, they book regular planes where the fans are on there. So I thought you have this amazing moment where the fans don't know that the players are going to be on their flight, of course, because you're just booking a regular ticket. But then if you're a massive West Coast fan and you're sat there, and then suddenly you've got 5 of your heroes just rocking up on your plane, there's a moment there.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about owning a moment. I thought, right, this is what we need. This is what we need to do. We need to amplify this. So we quickly, I must say, we worked with the AFL to support it as well. But we identified a few club flights, and essentially, over the course of the season, we created wonderful moments on board. So wonderful AFL moments whereby we were on board the team flight, and halfway through the flight, the captain, as in the club captain, not the flight captain, would get up on the PA and be like, "Hi guys, who wants free tickets to the grand final?" And everyone was like, "What?" And then we would do row 22, seat B, you're going to the grand final. Row 13D, you've just won business class flights to Bali. Row 1D, you've won a signed jersey.
And did you see that coming through in like socials and getting some really good organic reach from that as well? Can you track that?
Well, this was it. So you can do an activation on board for 174 passengers on a flight, but you need to amplify that, and that then becomes the key part of it. And it's experienced by few, seen by many. Is a mantra that one of my old bosses at MSC Saatchi used to say. He said, "You can create the most amazing activation, but if people outside of it aren't seeing it, then it's a waste of money." So it was, okay, well, how do we get that? How do we get that reach? So it was working with TV networks, it's working with our social team, the club social team, to film that, package it up, but do it quickly. So we would do this activation on board the flight. We'd give away all of these grand final tickets and have the captain of the club stand up, and all these fans going, "Oh my God, this is great." Film that. We literally land in the Virgin Lounge, cut and edit within an hour. Bang, that goes up on social media. That goes up on our channel, goes up on the AFL channel, it goes up on the club channels, and then bang, you've got that reach and engagement.
You've got 174 people that have actually seen that, sharing that. That's where you get that organic reach, right? Fantastic. Okay, let's move on. Sustainability and social responsibility are being increasingly important for brands, especially airlines, in the light of the climate change debate. How does Virgin Australia integrate these values into its partnerships, especially in initiatives like OzHarvest? And what impact does it have on the brand's reputation and customer loyalty? It's a big one. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, and I think, again, it comes back to the earlier point of understanding what your customers are passionate about. And, that's the whole point of partnerships, really. It's connecting with the relevant organisations that you know will connect with your customer. And again, going back to the Mark Ritson course and other MBAs and other sort of marketing fundamentals, it's about understanding that we as marketers don't necessarily know the answers. And I think we sometimes think that we know what our customers want. So one of the things that we've done very quickly is to do a customer survey. So it's actually go out to our audience, to those Virgin customers that fly with us every week, and ask them what they want. So
how are you doing that survey? Is it EDM going out saying opt in, or is it? Do you sometimes do like calls face to face? Like how are you doing it?
We've got a pool of customers that are prepared to do a survey on an ongoing basis, and we survey them on a number of different things. And they're not necessarily brand loyalists. Like they'll tell you straight whether they think that's a bad idea as well.
Which is what you want.
Which is what you want, yeah.
You don't want yes men on a survey.
So we've gone out and we've been able to essentially identify what are the passion points of our target customers, and then we're talking about partnerships. The strategy moving forward is fewer, bigger, better, and it's when we do find the right partnerships by asking and understanding what is going to connect with your target audience, then it's about bringing those few partnerships to life and doing that well is the real key.
So in the context of the airline industry recovering post-pandemic, how do partnerships play a role in Virgin Australia's strategies to regain customer trust and boost passenger numbers?
Yeah, so I think what we're trying to do strategically is to plug in how partnerships can lift those brand health metrics. So when we are measuring brand affinity, brand equity, we understand that sometimes the most important thing is getting flights on time, or what you're caring about might be the price of your flight. So we're not immune to that, and we understand that we need to, as any brand does, you need to get the fundamentals right, and you need to focus on those because that's what people are buying your product for. But then the second layer behind that is where the brand partnerships can come in and help build that brand equity and brand love.
And the stat here, the Nielsen survey found that partnerships drove on average 10% uplift in purchase intent. Is that something that you found across all of the measurements from your partnerships?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to pinpoint a particular partnership on driving that, but I think if you have a partnership strategy and you can certainly measure how your brand health metrics are doing, you can attribute partnerships to it, but individually specific ones, having seen that Happiness Island activation, or you being on the West Coast Eagles flight, are you then the following day going to buy a Virgin flight? Maybe not, but if that builds that brand equity in the long term, and that's the whole point of brand building in the long term, is that if you can build enough trust amongst your target customers, that will pay off.
Yep. Perfect. So James interviewed Andrew Nahn, who led the work on Wonderful brand platform, which it says James thinks is fantastic. I probably do too. What are your thoughts on Wonderful?
Yeah, I've obviously spoken about it. I love the fact that it's about bringing uplifting experiences to life, and it's so aligned to our ambition, which is to be Australia's most loved airline. I think the Wonderful campaign was also so interesting because it was data-led. It was understanding what part of the flight journey do customers dislike the most, and how can you create that flip it round and make it a wonderful experience. So the middle seat lottery campaign, can I get a show of hands of who's seen or know about the middle seat lottery? Yeah. Oh, wow, yeah, most of you. So I don't need to explain it too much, but essentially it's the data insight that shows that no one wants to sit in the middle seat. It's the worst seat on the plane. So how can you create an experience and flip that around to make that one of arguably the best seats on the plane? And that was by creating this amazing prize pool for competition that just for sitting in the middle seat you could win all of these amazing experiences, cruises, free flights for a year, AFL tickets galore, but it's so simple, but yet hadn't been done by any other airline. And you think all over the world that pain point, that customer pain point would have always been there. Yep. So, kudos to the wider brand team at Virgin that brought that to life, because I think that was just a clear demonstration of the wonderful positioning in an experience-led world.
And measuring that, I know that I fly a lot, and you jump on a plane, and there's all the seats that are empty are the middle seats. So I'm assuming you're filling more planes and selling more tickets to certain flights because people are willing to sit in the middle seat. Was that the data that you got from it?
Yeah, we actually had instances where people were going up to our check-in staff and asking to switch
to the middle seat,
the aisle and window seats so they could sit in the middle seat. It was remarkable. Completely flipped it around. So, I think wonderful for me is, as I said, from a partnerships point of view, it was a great platform and how we can bring that to life. Obviously, I've spoken about the AFL, but also we're the official airline of Adelaide Fringe. So, Australia's largest community arts festival down in SA. And we were able to use the brand positioning of Bring On Wonderful to create a wonderful experience at Fringe Corner. And for those of you that have been to Adelaide Fringe or are from SA, you'll know how much South Australians love the Fringe. And it's something that I've learned about being a Pommy, is that that's what they care about so much. So you talk about passion point, alignment. For Virgin Australia, we wanted to raise our awareness of our flight route into South Australia. So how do you do that? Well, you find out what are South Australians most passionate about, Adelaide Fringe, partner with them, but then it's not just about slapping a logo on it and saying, oh, we partner with Adelaide Fringe, aren't we great? Aren't we, passionate too?
You've got to activate it.
You've got to activate, right? So Fringe Corner is basically the hub of Adelaide Fringe. There's 500,000 people pass through that every festival series. So we developed an activation where it was come into the Bring On Wonderful hub, get glammed up, so get your makeup done, boys, girls, adults, kids, and get into the Velocity Vault, which is a cash grab, flying boarding passes. So you stand in there for 30 seconds, and all these boarding passes are flying around, and you're glammed up, and you've got goggles on, and you've got glitter and stuff, and grab the boarding passes, which relate to prizes. So again, it was festival tickets, it was festival merchandise, it was Velocity points, and it was creating an uplifting experience at the Fringe for our target market, who we knew loved the Fringe.
And random question again. Leveraging your partnerships to get those prizes and money can't buy experiences, how important are those sort of leveraging the partnerships for money can't buy experiences for these activations?
Really important. And it's, ultimately fans are after that. They're after things that they otherwise wouldn't be able to get. So working with partners and rights holders to unlock those experiences is so powerful, because that's what a rights holder can create. And for the rights holders in the room, I think being creative with your assets to create those prizes that fans will, and we know that competitions to win things money can't buy, behind the scenes, meet and greet, are what people enter. It's what they put their data in for.
And they're cost effective too. So you're not having to put hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash into prizes. You could have meet the captain, toss the coin, whatever it might be, cost you nothing, and you get that through your partnership. So that's leveraging the partnership to make the most of it.
Yeah, completely.
Okay, quick fire round. You ready?
Yep.
Your favourite marketing campaign of all time?
Oh, this was a struggle. There are so many good ones, but Procter & Gamble's Thank You Mum.
Who's seen that?
Show of hands of the Procter & Gamble Olympics sponsorship. I absolutely love that. So for those that don't, so Procter & Gamble, a long-term Olympic partner, and in 2010, I think it was, they launched a Thank You Mum campaign, which is essentially positioning themselves as supporting the mums behind the athletes. So often it's the athletes that get the glory, they get the gold medal, but actually, what about the mum that supported them from when they were 3 years old, 5 years, 10 years, taking them to kiddies sport, And it's just such a powerfully emotive campaign. I really encourage anyone to just watch the Thank You Mum Olympic video, and you will be drawn to tears because they do it so well. It tugs on the heartstrings of what it means to win, or what it must feel like to win an Olympic gold. But then imagine being the support team behind it, your mum, your dad, your family. It's great.
I just watched it 30 seconds before we came on stage, and I'm lucky I didn't come to tears very quickly. So the podcast is named the Own the Moment Show, which is our brand motto here at Como. What does Own the Moment mean to you?
Own the Moment for me is surprise and delight. It's about experienced by few, seen by many. Owning the moment, it's things where you can connect with your target audience and create an experience for them that they love, but then you can share so that thousands of other people can see that as well.
Perfect. The best brand in the world right now?
Amazon. And for me, it's about how consumer-centric they are. I think a lot of brands are obviously doing that, but I think Amazon at their core, when they founded, and I love the story about Jeff Bezos, who when he founded it, he had feedback at Amazon.com directed to his phone, so that any customer, and you think how many customers there were, so he could be on top of what customers wanted, so that he could then shape the company and their marketing and everything that they were doing around what the customer wanted. And I've always thought, well, that it seems so obvious. Of course, you need to listen to your customers, but they've always been so customer centric. And I think they're still to this day they have that at their core, which is why I think they nail it.
The most overrated trend in marketing right now?
I think there's an obsession with mass data and collection of data. I think there was a great stat that I saw: 70% of data held by brands is unused. And your sort of LinkedIn feeds are always about your data is so important, and data means this, and data means that. And yes, of course it does, but the right data and how you're using it. Mm-hmm. So just collecting loads of data isn't actually valuable.
Just doing it for the sake of it.
Yeah. Yep. And if you're not actually using it, then why are you collecting it?
Yep. The most underrated trend in marketing right now?
Well, probably not that underrated, but I think personalisation is going to be so important, and it's something that obviously we're looking at, and no doubt many people in the audience are as well. Personalisation for what connects with you, what is your passion point, how can a brand add to that? So you're a West Coast Eagles fan, what is the club doing for Joel to get you to go and watch the West Coast Eagles play, to understanding what your preferences are. They know that you live abroad, they know that you travel certain times of a year. Personalising comms to you as a West Coast fan. I think that's just one example, but the brands that do it well and personalise their comms are the ones that are doing it great.
Who should James have on the show next?
Well, we talk about owning the moment, and I think what couldn't have been a better campaign was the Matildas FIFA Women's World Cup. Mm-hmm. So I think getting someone from the FIFA marketing team talking about how they owned that cultural moment, or you could talk to Channel 7, who are the official broadcaster of the FIFA Women's World Cup, and did an excellent job. But I think we talk about moments, but wow, they owned that, didn't they? I mean,
the biggest in many years.
So I think I think it was Kim Anderson would be great, and I think there was a stat that 78% of Australians engaged with the event. 78% of all Australians engaged with the FIFA Women's World Cup. So I think talking to them about their strategy of how they connected with all of those Australians, what their plan was, how they brought that to life. I would listen to that. That'd be great.